Welcome, family. Welcome. Peace, love, balance, and prosperity to the family. We will be getting started soon. Welcome. We'll be getting started soon. Make sure you grab your pens. Make sure you grab your notebooks. Make sure your minds is clear. We about to get started. We'll give it a few more minutes. Let some more people hop on, and we're gonna get started, family. What's going on, family? Welcome back to another Mike Mondays. Welcome to the Authentic Experience. This is your brother, your servant, your herbalist, and your host, Mikael Ben Orr. I'd like to welcome to you all Mike Mondays, where we choose consciousness over corruptness. Um, how's everybody doing? How y'all feeling? Where you logging in from? Tap in with your brother as we get started, as we're going into light-coated foods for light-coated molecules. This is something, this is going to be a very imperative lecture, as we're going to go into some very important information where we're going to really start having to, we're really going to have to start putting truth over tradition. Let me say that. We're going to have to start putting truth over tradition. Why do I say truth over tradition? Because truth is concrete. Truth is immovable. Truth does not have to be explained. Truth is ultimately light that not only can expose, but it also can help and heal. Truth is just absolute in its purest form versus tradition, where tradition is only dealing with concepts, it's dealing with ideas, it's dealing with philosophies, it's dealing with the premise of culture. This is where you start to dive into religion. And the reality with tradition is there's always a loophole, there's always some corruptness, and there's always a way to program the masses, which leaves it not pure at all, but impure in its most purest form. And so today we're just going to simply deal with truth in its absolute form, dealing with our bodies. We grow up in a culture where it's gluttonous at the root, and not just food. We're gluttonous in finances. We're gluttonous when it comes to power. We're gluttonous when it comes to just being selfish. We're gluttonous, obviously, in food, seeing that America is the number one country in the world when it comes to sickness and disease. And you can just tell if you ever really traveled the world and seen different cultures, we are some of the biggest and obese people in the world. Like, they'll think that a lot of us are giants and this and that because of literally how we eat, not knowing that it's these complex proteins and these complex synthetic chemicals within our foods that's causing us to bloat up, that's causing us to blow up, that's causing us to carry all this water retention and inflammation in our bones and our muscles. And somehow we think we believe being big is the way to go, not realizing that it's just a sign of disease, whether now for later on. So today we're gonna prove without a shadow of a doubt, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your culture is, no matter what your tradition is, no matter what your society is, this is a universal code that we're gonna go over that is not, now this is specifically for the melanated community, but what we're gonna go over is for all people. Because at the end of the day, all comes from source. And we all have a genetic code, one where one is more ultimate than the other, and one is more greater than the other, and one has more abundance of it than the other, but nonetheless, it's still going back to the source. So today, we're going to go over some vital information that is primarily for the Black community, but it's for all people. Because I've seen it in different cultures in Europe, in Asia. When we go over what we're going to go over there, and they especially in the Middle East, the so-called Middle East, the Eastern cultures, they apply a lot of what we're going to go over today. And it's time for us to pay attention to our surroundings, our environment, our circumference here in America, and realize that the habits that we've been picking up and that we've holding and passed down through generation is causing us as a societal people to become worse than those before us on a degenerative level. So if y'all ready to get started, type some sevens. If y'all ready to get started, type some sevens. Y'all excuse me if I sound a little dunked up. I'm over here drinking some tea, so it's clearing me out right now. But if y'all ready, type in some sevens so we can get started. All right, let's get started. Put my screen up. All right, so again, we will be going over light-coded food for light-coded molecules. One thing we have to understand, right? Science in its purest form is nothing but pure observation. And when it comes to our society, our culture, our communities, we have to be able to observe. Because one thing science does give you is observative evidence. It gives you a scope to see the balance and imbalance within nature, right? And so when we look at the societal norms of America, there's a lot of imbalance. There's a lot of impurities. There's a lot of infirmities. There's a lot of sickness and disease on both sides of the spectrum, on all sides of the spectrum, dealing with all nations that have come into this melting pot called America. And one of the number one causes of disease and sickness is food. The reason why you find a lot of sickness dealing with food is because we have put on this we have put on this mono ideology that all people eat the same, all people build the same, all people get educated the same, all people view marriage the same, all people take on the same concept of spirituality, not realizing that that is not how nature works at all. When you look into nature, there's a diversity of many different cultures within the animal kingdom, within what they call the marine kingdom or the sea kingdom, within the air kingdom, dealing with the fowls of the air. There's a diversity in all these different kingdoms. But when it comes to the kingdom of mankind, we have taken on the concept that all people are all the same, therefore we should eat the same. But that has been the main reason why we're finding sickness within our communities, is because we're taking on the same ideologies of a culture that is not ours. And I'm not just talking about the Black community, because I've been able to talk to people of Asian descent too. When they come here and they get adapted, for whatever reason they come in, when they start to take on the American culture, them themselves start to find themselves sick. They start to find themselves drowsy. They don't have the same amount of energy. They're not able to do and think the same way. They start to have more brain fog, all based upon coming into this culture. Same thing with the African who comes over here as well. Once they start to get adapted to America, and the first thing they do notice is that, hold on, this vegetable don't taste like the same vegetable from Africa. This meat don't taste like the same meat from Africa. Huh? These potatoes don't taste the same. So they're even seeing the difference in the taste and the texture when it comes to the food economy here. So anybody who buys into the American idea or the SAD diet or the American standard diet, they start to find themselves sluggish. They start to find themselves sleepy. They start to find themselves having more brain fog. They start to find themselves pushing out more mucus and pushing out all these agglomerations, all due to them coming out of one holistic natural environment and coming into this corrupt, manipulative, programmed environment that's literally programmed and moved by technology. But this is not just technology. This is a biochemical technology that is synthetic and that is corrupt and manipulative in nature. And the thing about dealing with nature, anytime you start to manipulate anything in nature, at some point it will fight against you. Because nature must at all times stay in balance. So anytime you find yourself trying to manipulate, trying to change nature, at some point nature's going to take back its course. And the problem with that is you're going to be in the way and you're going to probably get eliminated like a parasite for trying to change that environmental nature of our environment. This is just straight facts. This is straight facts. And we don't realize as mankind, we're acting like parasites, sucking all the minerals from the soil, taking down the trees, not allowing the air to be properly oxygenated, building up these tall skyscrapers full of metal and synthetic concrete that's literally suppressing the oxygen within the soil that naturally help us. So we don't realize that we're suppressing and depressing and oppressing everything in nature that would be a benefit to us. But again, the one thing about nature is it's always going to take its course and reset its course when it finds itself being too manipulated. This is why you start to see hurricanes. This is when you see tornadoes, because nature must always take its course. So with that being said, when we look at the human body, when we try to manipulate it by synthetic proteins, these complex proteins, or these enhanced processed foods, trying to make it something as the original thing, but not quite so. You don't think your body's going to recognize a foreign invader that's not natural? You don't think your body's going to actually try to fight against something that's not naturally supposed to assimilate to it? Yes. But what we have called it is sickness. What we have called it is dis-ease. Not realizing that this synthetic processed chemicalized food that you're eating is causing an acidic ash left behind that's causing your body to enzymically react by way of what you call the mucosal membrane, sending out mucus or sending out the white blood cells, the T cells, the B cells that's recording this foreign invader to, first of all, identify if it's an enemy or not. That's the first thing. And then once it has its reaction, it takes its picture and records the DNA structure of this, then it knows and records that this is a foreign invader or it's not. So anytime you try to manipulate nature, saying that the human body is nature itself, at some point it's going to try to reset itself. So, and that's exactly what sickness is. It's not that you're truly sick. It's not that you truly at dis-ease, but it's really your body trying to reset itself. So when you start to see that you have something called lactic acid, right? You have this not lactic acid, but you have this reflux acid, right? What's the whole purpose of reflux acid? That's your body telling you that you're intaking too much acids, and it's caused the hydrochloric acid in your gut to actually build up too much, so it must emergency eject the extra acid. But you would take that as a sickness, or you would take that as a sign of something going wrong, when it's just your body telling you that there's too much acid in the body. You see that? Or let's look at a fever. Let's look at a fever that's triggered by your thymus gland, right? That's causing this chemical to be released to heat your body up. The doctor has told you that that is sickness. The doctor has told you that that is an illness, and that he will prescribe to you a suppressive medicine that will actually suppress the healing mechanism called a fever, all due to you not willing to go through the healing crisis, or as they label it, the disease, due to what you're eating wrong, when it's really your body trying to heat itself up so it can properly eliminate. Because based upon the acidic form of food that you're eating, you're clogging up your organs and tissues, which is then going to stagnate your lymphatic system, which in turn can stagnate your colon and your kidneys. So you only have 4 ways, or really 5 ways of eliminating: defecation, urination, vomiting, and sweating. You see that? So when you're not properly urinating by way of your kidney filtration, when you're not properly eliminating by defecation, by your lymphatic system assisting you in eliminating by way of lymph nodes, and obviously, if you're not going through reflux acid, of vomiting acid, or extra waste food that your body don't need, the next mechanism is sweating. And that's the whole point of a fever, is that it causes you to go through a sweat, so it can actually sweat these toxins out that you're not properly eliminating due to the acidic form of food that you're putting in your body. Or what we're going to say today, because the opposite of light is what? Darkness. So we're going to say this dark form of food that you're putting in your body. But seeing that your body is a electromagnetic vehicle that needs electricity, that needs electrical charges, that needs these building blocks that keep rejuvenated, keep restoring it, and keep rebuilding it, right? It's going to do what it has to do to eliminate. No different than what people call cancer. When you really look at cancer and you study cancer, is cancer really bad? When you actually see this bag that's forming in your body, that's collecting dead, wasteful cells, is it really bad, or is your body creating a healing mechanism to eliminate these dead cells that you're not properly eliminating due to dehydration, due to lack of oxygen, and due to proper elimination? You see that? If y'all with me so far, type some 7s in the chat. If y'all with me so far, type some 7s in the chat. Want to make sure I understand so far. If you with me, type some 7s. You understand? Type some 7s. Now that we got a little understanding your body going through a healing crisis versus what they have labeled disease, let's see how to truly bring in a balance of homeostasis in the body. So looking at the slide, right, it says the function of essential amino acids. So let's get this understanding, right? Rather than saying essential, we're going to say, no, we'll keep it at essential, right? So your body naturally produces something called non-essential minerals. The reason it's called non-essential minerals, Again, it's because your body naturally produces these minerals. It naturally produces these molecular structures. It naturally produces these light code structures that help build these natural amino acids that build in the body. But then there's an element that's called essential amino acids. These are the building blocks of life. So when we go through, it says amino acids are the building blocks of life, or protein. Proteins are long chains of amino acids. So this is actually what helps rebuild the cells. This is what helps restructure the DNA. This is actually what keeps your cells, the integrity of your cells together. This is what keeps your DNA and its chains strong and on one accord, as you see in this picture. The minute you start to manipulate and you start to burn or cause an inflammation in the body by way of acidic form or acidic leaving foods in the body, it will start to break the chain, right? So we want things that build and make the fort strong, right? So it says your body has thousands of different proteins that each have an important job. Each protein has its own sequence of amino acids. Now understand, when you look at the essence, the root of proteins is simple amino acid structures. As humans, we are supposed to be taking simple amino acid structure. Simply being, when you get to the complexity and you start to deal with polysaccharides versus monosaccharides, right? We do not have the pH level or the gut to actually break down the complex proteins or the polysaccharides by way of processed foods or meats. We do not have the hydrochloric pH level to break those down. Now, guess who does though? Caucasians. They actually have the actual hydrochloric levels to break those meats, those proteins down in its complexity. You see other animals in the animal kingdom that had the hydrochloric levels to break that food down. But when it comes to the melanated man and woman across the whole world, we just simply do not have the level of hydrochloric acid that we would need, nor do we have the intestines that's short enough to break it down, because our intestines is long and slim versus there's a short and thick. We don't have that. So when you just look at it from a scientific level and you remove religion, you remove culture, you remove society, and just deal with the pure, unadulterated truth of how the structure of your organs work, it just simply, the reality is you do not have the biochemical makeup to break that down. And anytime you try to force that, or anytime you put a foreign invader in the body that your body's having a hard time to break up, guess what the first thing that's released? Stress. So now you find your adrenal glands pumping out extra cortisol and adrenaline, all due to you stressing the organs the hell out. You see that? So then not only do you stress the organs out, but you start to stretch and expand them. And the one thing about stretching and expanding them is that at some point you stretch it long enough, you expand them long enough to the point of no return, they become of no use to you. Versus vegetables versus fruits and versus nuts. That's a simple amino acid structure. Well, at least the nuts, they are complex to a degree, but our body has a better chance of breaking those down than meats. So when we read it, it says the sequence makes the protein take different shapes and have different functions in your body. Let's go to the next slide. Uh-oh. So now, when we actually look at, this is a cell, right? This is the inside of a cell, more so the nucleus, right? When we look at the nucleus of the cell, right? The root of a cell, your cell is made up of charges. These charges are literally like electricity. Think of your phone. Your phone, for a time, it has certain structures in it that it's almost as if it has its own non-essential minerals, right? Where it's able to function to a degree by itself. But in reality, a phone is interdependent. At some point, it will need a charge, an external force, outside of itself that will help recharge. And see, this is why mankind, not to go too far left, but this is why mankind has to get out of the concept of thinking that all things that you need is within, when the reality is everything that you need is within and without, including the spirit of the creator, right? So when we look at a cell in its purest form, in the root of it, you have electrons, which is the electrical charge, right? It's your negative charge. You have proton, which is your positive charge. And then you have your neutron, which actually helps balance out the protons and electrons, right? And believe it or not, they feed off one another and they balance one another out. Now, the minute you start to lose charges, guess what you start to lose? You start to lose energy. But guess what energy is? Energy is light. And guess what light is? Light is life. You see that? So even by that alone, we see that there's something of a spiritual essence there called the Ruach, or called the Most High, that's working in us, even on a molecular structure. So anytime we start to lose the light, or lose the charge, or lose the energy, you start to actually see even your physical body become dim. If you ever see anybody who's dehydrated, what starts to happen? Their face get to sucking in. You may even start to see black spots around their eyes. Their lips look dry. Their skin may start to crack. And you just start to see life leave them. All due to them not being filled with a spirit molecule, or we're going to call water, or we're going to call wind, or the Ruach, right? When we start to see a dehydration happen, we start to see the external figure start to weary away. So we see that in order for you to actually get rejuvenation, revitalization, or balance of homeostasis, just like a phone, at some point you're going to need a charger. It's the same thing with your cells. At some point, they're going to need a recharge. And today we're going to find out what that recharge is. Because now we're dealing with electrical currents. We're dealing with energy. We're dealing with charges. And just like a phone, you cannot put an Android charger in an iPhone. And if that's the case, and we know that we're a diverse type of kind of man, you cannot put every charger of food in every kind of man. If y'all understand that, drop some threes. If y'all understand that, drop some threes. I just gotta make sure you understand, because we about to go into some real information. If y'all understand that, drop some threes. All right, let's keep going. So now, we're not going to go over the whole cell, but there's two parts of the cell I do want to go over, right? And that's the cytoplasm and that's the mitochondria. Why is this important to understand? We're going to deal with the mitochondria first, because we're going to really be hitting on the cytoplasm. And so I want to hit on that afterwards. So look, when you look at the mitochondria is actually what's in charge of helping reproduce energy, something called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So that means we find energy in each cell. When you look at the melanated man and woman, we carry 150 trillion cells. We carry 150 trillion cells. 50 of those trillion cells are what you call human cells, or eukaryotic cells. But then you have 100 trillion cells that's called prokaryotic cells. You got the Caucasian, that's sitting at 75 trillion cells. I believe the Asian is sitting at a little less. I'm not gonna lie to you, I can't remember the number off the top of my head. So we see that the so-called black man and woman are carrying more cells, what this is called your bacterial cells. These are the cells that cannot find any beginning nor end to them. These are cells that they are seeing that have been here longer than anything on the earth, and you, black man and black woman, carry. So when you look at your cell, you're carrying a mitochondria. The mitochondria is an organelle in which energy is extracted from food during oxidative metabolism. Now, we went over this before. The oxidative metabolism part starts to happen during your pancreatic enzymic reactions. When your pancreas is sending out an enzyme called chyme, and this liquid thick substance is pretty much smothering your food, and it's breaking through the molecular wall of your food, and it's looking for energy. It's looking for charges. It's looking for minerals that will help recharge its charges. It's not looking for what they call calories. It's not looking for a 1,000 watts of calories. It's looking for a qualitative amount of minerals that it uses because it has to assimilate with a certain charge. Now, that's what's going to take us to cytoplasm, right? So looking at that, this mitochondria needs energy to help metabolize and oxidate, meaning bring oxygen to the cells. There is only really one mineral that carries oxygen to the cells, and that's called iron phosphate. That's called iron phosphate. Because remember, these type of cells, especially your red blood cells, is where? In the blood. So you find your blood actually feeding the cells. So we'll find a lot of people, sickle cell anemia, who dealing with what? Low iron. It's because they're not getting enough energetic iron phosphate to the cells. It's going to help oxygenate that cell. So they'll find their cell sickling, or what we're going to say dehydrated. What we're going to say is dehydrated. So we see by way of adenosine triphosphate that there's a certain type of mineral, a certain type of energy that it needs to help recharge your cell, which takes us to the cytoplasm. Now, the cytoplasm is actually, you see that watery substance where all the organelles are sitting in? All that watery substance in the cells. That is actually called your cytoplasm. That is what actually holds all the organelles together. This is actually what contains the nucleus, which is dealing with your electrons, protons, and neutrons, and this is what keeping everything afloat. The minute you start to lose cytoplasm, the minute you start to strip the cell of any type of cytoplasm, which is water content, by the way. Yes, just like your brain floats into water content in your skull, your cells within itself is full of water that holds these organelles together. So now, not only did we understand that we need iron phosphate, but now we're saying that our cells float in water content, which means what? If my cells is floating in the water content, what do you think the cells would need to keep the integrity of the cytoplasm? Put in the comments. If my cell organelles is floating into this watery-like substance called cytoplasm, what do you think the cell would need to keep the cytoplasm integrity intact? Put it in the chat. What do you think it would need to keep its integrity intact? Put it in the chat. I don't know if it's a delay, but I'm gonna give it to y'all. It would need water. So far we got iron phosphate. We see it need energy. It needs charges, right? Now we get into the cytoplasm, which is nothing but water content. So we know that it needs hydrogen and it needs oxygen. But now the question is, even within that, what type of hydrogen and what type of oxygen? We're going to see. So let's see what the purpose of the cytoplasm is. The purpose of the cytoplasm, it actually helps remove waste. No different than what, y'all? The lymphatic system that have lymph liquid, or what we call lymph nodes as well, that helps remove waste. So we see that the cytoplasm is there to help remove waste, right? Then it also helps with cell respiration. So we know by that definition that the main mineral it needs is oxygen. Write that down, y'all. the main mineral that your cell needs, seeing that the cytoplasm, which is the main liquid within the cell, is there to help with respiration of the cell. No different than your respiratory system, which functions off what, y'all? Oxygen. That means your cell primarily needs what, y'all? Oxygen. So there's only two types of sources that carry oxygen. So you see, when we start to really get into the nuts and bolts of it, and are we really dealing with proteins? And if we are, what type of proteins? Because if we're dealing with proteins, we got to go to the what type of proteins. Is it complex proteins, polysaccharides, or are we dealing with simple amino acid structures? Which is monosaccharides. Because one carries mostly oxygen, which is the simple amino acid structure, while one carries carbonic acid, complex proteins hard to break down, and it leaves an acid ash. Well, we're dealing with respiration of a cell, respiratory to breathe, which is why breathing is so important, which most people do not breathe properly. Most people nasal breathe, don't even properly breathe out their mouth. Did you know that if you actually breathe properly, that you can lose weight? Kid you not? Research and look it up. If you actually learn how to breathe properly, which is breathing in your nose and out your mouth, if you properly breathe, which most people don't properly breathe, you can find yourself not only achieving proper homeostasis, but you will find yourself losing weight and actually being able to properly tone your cells by simply breathing properly. Because that's what the cells are there for, to help with respiration. And then the cytoplasm is there to also convert glucose into energy. Now the question you got to ask yourself, if that's the main purpose of cytoplasm, and the whole thing is to help glucose, or we can say fructose as well, convert into energy, which is that ATP, which is assisted in the mitochondria. What is glucose, and where is glucose mainly found? Where is it mainly found? You will find glucose in your vegetables, family. You will find fructose in your fruits, family. You will find galactose in your breast milk, in your coconut milk, family. See, we are proven without a shadow of a doubt, your cells is telling you what you need. Your cells is telling you what you need. It needs respiration. It needs oxygen. It needs energy. It needs glucose to convert into energy. This is not a hard thing to really understand. It's just that we have to start removing tradition, certain parts of culture, and religion, and deal with the truth unadulterated. Let's keep going. So now, when you look at the DNA structure, remember I said it's these long chains that keep together. This is actually what your DNA structure is made up of, the ribonucleic acid. These acid chains is your deoxyribose, is your phosphate, is your guanine, is your cytosine, is your adenine. Now let's see what they're used for. When you look at these are the main essential amino acids that you need. So when we look at the first one, when we look at phenylalanine, right? It said the purpose of it is crucial for structure and function of proteins and enzymes. Now, what in the body it has enzymic reactions? What in the body actually strips the food of its molecules, of its structures, so that it can distribute or utilize it to the cells? We see that this is dealing with the pancreas. So we see that your pancreas, this is one of the things your pancreas needs. Then you have valine. Valine actually helps stimulate muscle growth and help in regeneration. So now we're not only just dealing with cells, but we're dealing with red blood cells. We're dealing with the muscle, we're dealing with the tissues, which means we're dealing with the bones, right? And we know your bones need what? Potassium and calcium, right? And it needs manganese, because you need manganese to help balance out calcium. Or magnesium, I'm sorry, not magnesium. Then we have threonine. Threonine helps with fat metabolism and immune functions, right? So then we start to get into what? The fatty acids, omega-3s, right? Then we have tryptophan, right? It is a precursor to serotonin that helps to regulate your mood. So now, what's in charge of your serotonin? What's in charge of melatonin? Now we're dealing with what, y'all? Your pineal gland. So we dealt with the pancreas. We just dealt with the muscles and bones and blood. We're dealing with the fatty acids, right? And we're dealing with the omega-3s. And now we're dealing with the pineal gland, which is in charge of your serotonin and your melatonin. But now, not only that, because where is most of your serotonin made? 93% of your serotonin is made in your gut. Oh wait. 93% of your serotonin is made in your gut. So now we dealt with the gut. Now we're dealing with methionine. Methionine plays a pivotal role in the body's metabolism and detoxification. Now, what's in charge of metabolism? Your thyroid, huh? And your adrenal gland. And you're talking about detoxification. So we know we're dealing with the adrenal gland. We know we're dealing with the kidneys. And we're dealing with what, y'all? The lymphatic system. I'm giving you all these essential amino acids because based upon this, if we are high frequency vehicles, if we are light bodies, if we are electrical bodies, and we're dealing with electrical current minerals called essential amino acids, that means we need the best of it. Because if we're the best, if we are the highest, how do I put this? If we are, let's just call it what it is. If we are the original people, right? Which means we are created in the likeness and image of the creator. And this creator obviously had to give us the best of the best, including the very vehicle that we're hosting, called a human body, called an avatar, right? And we know based upon the beginning, based upon the Genesis, based upon the better sheet, that it was a specific type of food he gave to sustain, maintain, and retain this vehicle that we're hosting in, right? That would be the food that helps maintain this high quality vehicle called a human body. We're melanated people. That means we're full of sugars and salts, simple sugars and salts at that. We are totally and utterly assimilated with nature, which we'll get into, which is why you're able to even take the UV rays from the sun if you are healthy. If you are healthy, because we'll get into that too, that the reality is, yeah, you'll find some black people who deal with getting burnt by the sun, right? But the reality is you'll find a lot of those people who are full of acids too. Because when you start to really pay attention and research your cells actually have something in it, which we'll go into, that actually assimilates perfectly with the sun's UV rays. Perfectly. So by scientific definition and pure evidence, you really not supposed to go through any type of sunburn. Now, don't get me wrong, too much of anything can harm you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm not being extremist. I'm just simply saying that you were put in an environment where the sun is most closest to the equator. It's most closest to the ground than anywhere in the world. And you were perfectly fit in there to assimilate not only with the sun, but everything that was around nature. So don't let these people confuse you when you in your natural optimum level of health. You perfectly and totally assimilate with nature. Then we have leucine, right? Leucine helps to regulate blood sugar levels. So again, we're dealing with insulin, we're dealing with the pancreas. Here we go again. And it produces growth hormones. So now we're dealing with what again, y'all? We're dealing with the parathyroid and thyroid again, because the thyroid is in charge of the growth and development of the human body. Then we're dealing with isoleucine, right? It's essential for immune function, right? So now we're dealing with what, y'all? We're dealing with your lymphatic system, hemoglobin production. We know the hemoglobin is dealing with what, y'all? The red blood cells. Now we're dealing with the red blood cells and energy regulation, which is going right back to that ATP and cellular regeneration. You got lysine, helps in protein synthesis, calcium absorption. So now we're dealing with the bones, and the production of hormones. So now we're dealing with the glands. Then we have histidine, produces histamine for regulation for the immune responses, digestion. Now we're dealing with the gut and sexual function. So now we're dealing with the prostate, and we're dealing with a woman's what? Estrogen levels, testosterone and estrogen levels. See, now you understand now why you need these particular essential minerals, because this actually helps keep your cells in order, your tissues in order, your organs in order, your systems in order, which ultimately keeps you in order. And then when you are stripping the body of maintaining or retaining these essential minerals, these essential amino acid structures, these building blocks, and you use anything otherwise, if amino acids is there to build, anything out these amino acids is to what? Tear down. So you want to make sure that your food is containing these, and not just containing them, but containing them at a high level, family. Let's keep going. So, first and foremost, I definitely want to give honor where honor's due. I actually first saw this slide when I actually attended a seminar years ago by one of my old teachers, Yaki Awaken, right? So I don't know exactly. I got this. I forgot the website I got this off of, but I know I first seen this when he actually used this slide before. So I want to, give credit where credit is due. So it says, a quick guide to vibrational nutrients. Many people still cling to the outdated idea that nutrients has to do with things like calories, fats, carbs, proteins, fiber, nutrients, and a myriad of other misleading metrics. According to the scientific evidence, y'all, according to the scientific evidence that has yet to be discovered, real nutrition comes down to one thing: vibrational frequencies of the food you eat. And we're about to actually get into that. We have to understand and thank the Most High that as we go further into time, we do see knowledge is increasing, especially in these last days. And we see that there are certain instruments and equipment that's even being produced now that's able to actually read things that was not so hundreds of years ago, 50 years ago, not even 20 years ago, right? And one thing we have to understand as a people is that everything moves off energy. And I'm not talking about no weirdo concept. I'm talking about pure energy. Think about this. The earth is an electromagnetic field where they have found that if you actually put your feet in barefoot in the soil, which also carries minerals that you are made up of, that you have something called receptors, which is your hands and your feet. But when you're connecting with earth, that they actually have scientifically proven that you will not only can you heal your feet, but it naturally gives the body a recharge. Oh wait, so you telling me that if I take my shoes off, and if I take my socks off with these synthetic fabrics and these shoes that's full of rubber, that's literally a byproduct of concrete, that's suppressing the energetic vibration of my feet, that if I put my feet in the soil, that just like a phone, I can recharge my body? Yes. Are you telling me that if I sit in the sun for 2 hours a day, seeing that I have cellular respiration and I have melanin that's able to not be harmed by the sun, but able to assimilate and utilize the sun and be fed by the sun, that I can also be recharged by the sun? Yes. Yes. See, I call it natural radiation. How they're telling y'all as cancer patients to go get radiation, that's your natural radiation. Sit in the sun 2 hours a day. That's your natural radiation. Are you telling me that if I eat foods that's perfectly assimilated with my cells, and that it's showing that these foods are carrying vibratory energy, or what we're going to call resonant frequencies, that it will actually recharge my cells? Yes. No different than how we say this when it comes to relationship. We say what, man? I gotta feel the vibe. Our energy gotta connect. Kinetic energy. Right? Or when somebody that you don't trust or who has done you wrong come in a room, and all of a sudden there's negative energy. How is that so? If you're not an electrical magnetic being, how is that so? Or how is it when you accidentally touch somebody that you shocked them? Ooh, let's talk about it. If you're not full of electricity and electromagnetic currency, how are you able to touch somebody and actually transfer energy that shocked them? Let's talk about it. See, we say these little terminologies, not really understanding the meaning behind them, not understanding the power behind them. Which, if we start to understand the principal rules behind these energetic forces, the reality is there are certain things that we would not allow in our biosphere, that we wouldn't allow in our biophilia, because we know that the minute that the wrong type of frequency or energy comes into this biosphere, the whole thing is shuttered. The whole thing is off. Every frequency is not a matched frequency. Every frequency is not a matched frequency. Every frequency is not a matched frequency. It's not a match made in heaven. So if that's the case, if there's a certain partner that is attracted to us by way of energy, if there's a certain environment that helps me heal, right, by its energy, if there is a certain music that causes me to move based upon the energy of that music, you're telling me that there's no energy in the food? But when you eat certain fried foods or certain type of food, that all of a sudden you get something called the itis, which is a low frequency energy because it makes you go to sleep? Huh? Come on now. Come on now. So watch this. They said it's amazing. It's amazing, but it really is that easy. The lower the frequency, the more toxic food is for you. Ooh-wee. So are you telling me, Mikael, that they've been able to prove certain foods have a certain frequency? And is it true that there's certain frequencies that's higher in food that's higher than others? Absolutely. And I'm about to prove that to y'all today. So let me see something real quick. Let me see what I want to show y'all next. So before I show y'all this video, I want to say this, right? Remember, the cell is full of organelles, and those organelles is floating in something called cytoplasm. This cytoplasm is water content that's there to help with the respiration of that cell. So if that means that water, remember, water is so powerful that's able to adapt and shift into anything. And this is why we have to be careful of what we let in our receptors, our eye receptors, our ear receptors, our nose receptors, our mouth receptors, our penis and vagina receptors, our feet receptors, because we're receiving all these different energies and we're able to also give it out too. So before we move forward, I want to show y'all actually the power of water being moved by certain frequencies. So let me show y'all this video real quick. Let me show y'all this video. Let me show y'all what sound. Let me show you what vibration does to water. Before I move forward, type some ones in the chat. If y'all can see this video, type some ones in the chat. Y'all about to get y'all mind blown away. Because remember, keep this in context. You are 93% made of water. You are made up of 93% water. Huh? You are made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Keep that in mind. Your cells are full of water content, respiratory content, which means it's oxygen. Oxygen is nothing but an air-like molecule of water. So we're dealing with water content that's able to shift and adapt based upon the environmental frequency that it's in. Now watch this, y'all. I'm gonna make a point, but watch this. Here we go. Now y'all see, he's playing with the frequency. Now watch this. He's playing with the music, he's playing with the sound. Watch how the sound starts to shift the water, man. You start to see the water shift based upon the sound. Close attention. Close attention. Now, I hope y'all saw that. Y'all saw as he lowered the frequency, the less shape it was able to take, which in essence, the more sterile the water became, it was not able to properly move or circulate. But the higher the frequency went, the more it was able to shift and shape in that bowl. Did y'all see that? What if I told you that's exactly how you operate? Based upon the sound. Frequency, talking about music. Based upon the TV you watch, which is a sound and frequency. Based upon the conversation you have, which is a sound and frequency. Remember, death and life are in the tongue. Death and life are in the tongue. So that means who speaks over you or what you speak over yourself has power to shift the molecular structure of your cells due to the water content in it. Ooh, wait. Let's keep going. Y'all pay attention. That was powerful, right? If y'all understood what was happening, drop some threes. If y'all understood what was happening, drop some threes. I want to make sure you understand, because this is exactly y'all don't think the powers that be understand that this whole world is moved by vibration and frequency. Even when you go into the name Judah or Yehuda, which means praise. Praise is one of the highest forms of praising the Most High. The highest frequency of praising the Most High. It's better than a sacrifice. You see that? We don't understand that everything around us, we're dealing with energy, whether it be unseen energy or whether it be seen energy, whether it be unheard energy or whether it be heard energy. Nonetheless, because we are spiritual beings hosting a fleshly or natural vehicle, we are able to feel that energy. That's why we always, I feel you. Man, I feel you, dog. Well, what are you feeling? You feel that energy. You feel that kinetic connection, and you can spiritually relate. So when we look at the food, the food that we're eating, is it holding high vibrational energy, or is it holding low vibrational energy? Now watch this. Let me see. I want to go here. No, I'll say that for another time. I say that one too. Right. Exactly how the stars look. Right. So now let's continue. Let me put this back on. So now that we understand that there's certain energy that we carry, just like when you look at, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Because when you actually research it from what the scientists show you, they actually show you that the food that holds the most highest, and it's called angstroms. These angstroms is actually hertz within food. And they'll actually show you in your article research that the food that holds the highest angstrom or hertz is actually, it's not just vegetables. It's not just fruits. It's not just nuts, but it's specifically your raw fruits and vegetables that hold the highest angstroms or highest hertz when it comes to energetic frequencies within the food. We have to understand, if the earth is the most highest and the fullness thereof, and everything that has life was created by this creator, that means everything has life in it, from the soil. That's why you don't call it dirt. If you really know anything about soil science, you don't call soil dirt unless there's no life in it. You don't call soil dirt unless there's no life in it. Like sand is actually considered dirt. It has little to no life in it. But true soil, organic melanated soil, is true live soil that what feeds the plant, feeds the embryonic cell of that plant. Trees are in essence alive because they're able to help you breathe. Or your environment, the earth is called the electromagnetic field because it's able to yield energy. This is why you see all these hurricanes and tornadoes and volcanoes, because the earth is actually cleansing itself. You see that? It's all in our face. We don't realize it though. So if that means everything in life outside the human race, which is above all things, if everything in life has life and carries energy, we don't think we do either. And we don't think we need electrical charges, in essence, to help us sustain this vehicle? Absolutely. So when you look at this list, right, I'm not going to go through everything, right? But when you look at the carnivores, when you look at the omnivores, when you look at the herbivores, when you look at the frugivores, and when you look at the humans, right, we see that the human mouth is more assimilated with the frugivores and not even necessarily herbivores. Because really herbs is for the healing of the nations. But do you still need to take them once you're healed? No, you don't. Because when you actually look at herbs in its most natural form, herbs is really toxic. And the reality is, you take too much of certain herbs, you will actually die. Like if you ever took duck flower before, you would die. You take that the wrong way. You take guaco bark a certain type of way, you will die. You take burdock root a certain way, you will die. And depending on the type of disease that you have, you would die even quicker. So you can't really play when it comes to the herbs, because you can kill somebody doing it. You can kill yourself. And the reason you can kill yourself, because naturally herbs are toxic. They're here to literally not only detoxify you, but they literally put a little toxin in you to cause you to go through a purgatory stage. So you're not supposed to be taking herbs every day. Now you can eat vegetables. You can eat fruits every day, because those are rebuilders and hydrators. So when you look at the human teeth versus the carnivore, do we assimilate with the carnivore? No. We don't have the teeth, nor do we have the fingernails to literally claw and cut down meat and eat it in its purest form. And that's another part that we have to understand. There's no possible way you're going to find nutrients in meat. I'm going to tell you why. Because the life is in the blood. And within the blood, the life is actually in the cells, as we see. Because the cells what carry what? The DNA. The DNA carries the information. The information is what carries the building blocks of life. So if you're not going to sit there and eat raw meat or medium rare meat, you can't possibly be thinking that you're getting any type of minerals or proteins from meat, even if you want to go down to the muscle and the bone. Well, here's the thing about that. If you know anything about the bone, what actually gives the bone its so-called nutritional value of protein is something called bone marrow. But guess what? The reason that the bone marrow actually is carrying certain type of proteins, certain type of phytonutrients, because what does the bone marrow do? It helps reproduce the red blood cells. So it goes right back down to blood, family. So if you're not going to actually eat the meat with the blood therein, you can't possibly actually think you're going to get any type of nutrition or protein from it. Caucasians understand this very well. This is why they have no problem eating medium rare meat. But the minute the black man and black woman start to eat medium rare meat, what happens? You got stomach problems. Your gut lining is tore up and burnt out. Leaky gut, gout. You see diabetes because your pancreas can't break that down. Your insulin levels is out the roof. Your hydrochloric acid buildup is out of this world because you're eating things that's not properly assimilated to your organs, your tissues, and your cells. So now let's go to the omnivore. That omnivore is what most of us try to claim we are. We able to eat meats and vegetables. But look at the omnivore's teeth. You don't have teeth again. You don't have the teeth or the bone structure to break meat down. Most of y'all don't even chew your food down properly anyway. Because you should be chewing your food about 100 times. Because by the time you should be getting done, it should be water-like substance. If you ever chew meat for that long, you know that you ain't breaking it down. And it's damn near still the same way as before you bit it. So you put it all down, your esophagus and everything going down, and it's not, and you have to force it down. You see that? Then we look at the herbivore. See, then we go to the herbivore. We don't have the same gut structures as like a cow. Cow got 4 guts. And he goes through his processing like a food processor or a blender or juicer. But we don't have the same gut structure as them to even break down herbs like they do. So no, we can't sit there and eat grass and hard structured vegetables like them all day. We don't have the gut to do that. But now when you look at the frugivore, which is your primates, your silverback gorillas that eat fruits, vegetables, and nuts, we do have the gut structure and hydrochloric acid levels to break that down. We do have the teeth structure to properly chew that down to the point that that alkaloid substance in our tongue that we call spit is able to alkalize and break that foam down even better. So when it's going down and it's going through a digestive processing, it is properly assimilated to how your body needs it to break down. You see that? If we keep it in the most simplistic structure, we will see that we are more, when it comes to homeostasis, we are more assimilated with fruits and vegetables and nuts than any other food. That's even down to your dairy, which yields a lot of acid and actually is causing more cancer than chicken itself. And you ain't doing nothing but taking on cow pus in the first place and taking the baby cow's milk, breast milk at that. Ain't none of y'all on this live or whoever watched the feedback, ain't none of y'all gonna go to no cow titty and put your mouth on it. You gonna say that's inhumane. But what's the difference between you drinking cow's milk? Because you ain't putting your mouth on the titty, that makes a difference? Let's keep going. Hold on real quick, y'all. Now going to what I was saying, right? All food has energy. All food deals with herbs. And they've been able to prove this. They actually have the scientific equipment now to prove this. If you look up, I think his name is Fritz Pop. Let me make sure I don't want to mess his name up. Oh yeah, that's his name. Fritz Albert Pop, right? When you look up, they came up with, it's called the Kellerian photography, where they were able to take thermogenic pictures of food, and they were able to actually was able to see its aura, or it was able to see its biofield or its biometric energy within the field by taking pictures. What you see here is a visual representation of the living elements in the food. So we got sprouts, we got the cocoa, right? Your chocolate. We got organic mushrooms. So what you see, that joint is out of this world. Then you got your conventional mushrooms, right? So this is the difference. You got your organic mushrooms, high vibration. Its kinetic field is going crazy. But then look at your conventional mushrooms, your domesticated mushrooms, your synthetic lab-made mushrooms. It's low vibration. See? So I'm not just talking about meats. I'm even talking about these fake old vegetables that's full of pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides that they even selling y'all in these false grocery stores. Cause look, you got your organic broccoli versus your conventional broccoli versus your domesticated, manipulative grown conventional broccoli. You see there's more energy or vibratory biometric fields on the organic broccoli versus the conventional. But then here's the deeper part. Now we see a cooked carrot versus a raw carrot. You see that? The cooked carrot. Because the thing about anytime, I don't care if it's fruit, I don't care if it's vegetables, meat, whatever. Anytime you start to put fire to anything, it starts to take the integrity of the mitonutrients phytonutrients of that food away. It takes the integrity of its energetic levels away. So even down to your vegetables, anytime you put fire to it, it starts to manipulate. Remember I said, when you start to manipulate nature, it will manipulate you. So while you thinking it's okay to cook your vegetables, you don't realize that nature is now playing a trick on you to think that you actually get minerals and you're not, because you're cooking your minerals away. Especially when you start to put this synthetic butter that's full of nothing but acid made from milk, cow's milk at that. Then you put canola oil out of all oils, vegetable oil, almond oil, and then you not only are you manipulating the food, but now you're manipulating the oil, which now becomes a toxic to you. Outside of grapeseed oil and avocado oil, that is the best oils to cook with. Any other oil, the minute you start to put fire to it, it loses integrity. It can become a toxin to you. Even coconut oil. And coconut oil, you got and think about I get some, again, we dealing with tradition, right? Some traditions cook with coconut oil, but the thing about coconut oil, you don't think that coconut oil gonna turn the same way inside of you that it was before you put it in that pot. It is. It's gonna harden. It's gonna literally harden your arteries. It's gonna harden your organs. So we see, this is why we have to start. It should be bigger than herbalism. Shout out to my girl Kamisha. It's bigger than herbalism. We have to start understanding. This is what my old teacher had told me. You got to start understanding the biochemical makeup of even the food. You got to start understanding the biochemical makeup of food, because based upon the biochemical makeup, you will know what you should eat and what you shouldn't. And when you look at cooked foods, even vegetables, you see that you're taking the integrity of that vegetable away, and even it's no different than the meat. What's well done, you're stripping it of its nutrients. Unless you're doing it like you do herbs in a pot and you boil them. That's actually better than, or steam. That's better than actually cooking your vegetables in a pot. But you see that it's more vibratory energy in the raw baby carrots. But now look at this. We got our organic tomatoes versus our conventional tomatoes. Again, we're seeing the energy levels are different when it comes to the organic that was plucked straight from the vine, or plucked straight from the plant, or plucked straight from the trees. It's holding more vibratory energy because it's coming straight from the source, family. That's what this is about. So seeing that we are a people that come straight from the source, and that source gave us people an energetic source to sustain. Are we saying the creator is wrong? Because the reality is he gave us something in the beginning to sustain this biometric field called a body. And it's full of electrical charges called protons, neutrons, and electrons. Full of molecular structures called amino acids that needs a particular charge to keep getting recharged. And the reality is, whether it be cooked vegetables or fruit, or meat itself or dairy, there's no vibratory energy or watts or angstroms in those foods. Let's keep going. Here we go again. Now, man, what I was telling y'all, now we getting down to the nuts and bolts of meat. We ain't got to go over tomatoes and broccoli. But look at the nuts and bolts of meat. When you look at the cooked meat, which is medium rare, it's not as vibrational as the raw meat. This is just facts, family. It's called the Kirlian photography. They was able to take thermogenic pictures to see the biosphere, the biofield of food. And you see raw meat actually has more vibratory energy than cooked meat. This is a fact. And I don't think no black person on this live or who will watch the playback will eat no raw meat.
So if y'all ready to move on, give me some twos in the chat. All right, let's keep going. My bad, y'all. This tea got me clearing out over here. So now, when we look at this pyramid, right? I'm not gonna go through all the food, but pretty much the bottom half is dealing with all meats. The second bottom half is dealing with your processed foods or your byproduct of meats. And you see, when we dealing with dairy and processed foods, and I'm not just talking about processed foods concerning meat, but I'm even talking about your vegan processed foods, although they're not on here, but your vegan processed foods need to go there on there too. Because that's just as just as bad. Matter of fact, it's actually worse than meat. Your vegan byproduct processed foods is worse than meat. I'm telling y'all this for sure. That'll never be something I would suggest that you transition into. It's worse than meat. So you see, when we get to these processed foods and we get to these meats, there is no type of vibratory energetic frequency in it. But the minute we start to go into your cabbages, your lettuce, right, your rooted food, your potato, we start to see the energy levels go up. We start to see the energy levels go up. And now if you see on the right, it said often cook losing their life force. Again, anytime you put fire to anything, you lose energy. And we see that it's functioning at 5 millihertz, which is really 5,000 hertz. Ooh, did you know that your cells actually function? Each cell functions at 0.005 hertz. Each cell, you have 150 trillion cells. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of life force that you gotta maintain and be responsible for. See, when we start to look at ourselves and we look at our children, you will actually start to see that taking care of yourselves / self is the first lesson of how to take care of community. I kid you not. If you really look at your cells, you have 150 trillion cells. Your cells poop like you, they urinate like you. Believe it or not, they have sex like you, they multiply like you. The only difference between you and them is that you're able to take yourself to the bathroom, but your cells are not. Now, when you look at your cells function as a baby with a diaper on. A baby's not able to take that diaper off. They'll cry. Just like your cells will cry of dehydration. They'll cry, but they're not able to take the diaper off. So when your cells is actually pooping and urinating, they urinate and poop on top of itself. Now you have something called lymph nodes that's actually supposed to be they go pretty much and sweep the butt of the cells and cleanses the cells of its metabolic waste. Well, what happened if you start to eat these death-forming foods, these low-life foods right here, that start to stagnate your lymphatic system, and they're not able to actually send out lymph nodes? Guess what? That poop and urine actually stays on top of the cells. Well, let me ask y'all a question in the chat. If you leave a baby's diaper on too long, what will happen to the baby's bottom? Put your answers in the chat. Put your answers in the chat. If you leave a baby's diaper on too long, what will happen? a rash. Now, let's deal with it on an intracellular level or microcosmic level. If you leave that waste on top of the cell too long, this is actually the start of inflammation, family. This is the start of inflammation. This is the start of eroding cells. This is the start of dead cells. This is the start of joint pain. This is the start of diabetes. When you're not able to properly eliminate, you start to internally defecate. I didn't say defecate, I said defecate. Because you start to suppress and oppress your cells, but not allowing them to breathe. And guess what? You put your hand on your mouth and your nose right now, for too long, you either gonna pass out or you're gonna die. Well, imagine that you're doing that to 150 trillion cells, all due to your lust and all due to your cultural, societal norms of how to eat. And because mama did it, and because grandma, big mama did it, it should be okay. No. It's time for us to change the narrative. And there's a lot of us out here now that is coming to the realization we've been lied to on how to balance out our eating. And I'm not knocking whatever lifestyle, how you eat. What I'm saying is your primary diet should be full of fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Raw fruits, vegetables, and nuts. I don't care if you eat meat. 85%, 90% of your day should be full of raw foods. The 10% for the sake of convenience and comfortability, yeah, we can deal with cooked foods. But I guarantee if you start to implement this, you will see a change in your health. Raw foods. So as you see, when we go to the second to last top level, or actually let's go to the third level. It says the life force meter, right? Now we're getting into 15,000 hertz. This is the mostly consumed raw high food, life force. Now you're dealing with your apples, which is a good detoxification fruit. You're dealing with your berries, which is a good antioxidant fruit. You're dealing with your coconut meat, your coconut water, which is also full of fatty acids and galactose. That's the closest thing to breast milk you would ever get. Is coconut milk, pure coconut milk made from coconut meat. Avocados, full of omega-3s and fatty acids. Melons, full of hydration, the most hydrational fruit in the world, especially your cucumbers, which is 96% full of water. And you got your watermelon is 93% full of water. Your raspberries, your pineapples, which is a good detoxification fruit as well. Your mangoes, very good for the nervous system. Very good for cleansing the skin. You got your bananas. It's good for your bones, full of potassium and calcium. Your peaches, your grapes, which is gut busters. Good for cleansing the gut. Good for purifying that blood. Oranges, right? Your citric fruits, very good for detoxifying. Then you got your raw nuts, your dates. Your dates is very good for resetting the microbiota and cleansing that gut. Eat about 3 dates a day. You will see your gut start to cleanse for real. Then we get into higher frequencies. Now we get into 52,000 hertz, 320,000 hertz. Now we dealing with your sea vegetables, your sea moss, your dulse, your kelp, your bladderwrack, your spirulina, your limes, your key limes, your lemons, your walnuts. And then at the highest level, what we got, y'all? Your chlorophylls, your essential oils, your oregano oils. Now, let me just put this. I don't really agree with the wheatgrass because I have yet to find a real origin for wheatgrass. But as you see, the higher you get in the pyramid, it's the foods that's actually grown by the sun naturally that's at the highest level of the pyramid. And that's simple, family. Even if you go eat at the lowest part, if you consume 90% of your day eating the top part, you will still see a change. Y'all need to start studying Blue Zone communities. They actually abide by these principles. This is not just an African principle or Aboriginal American principle. This is actually a universal principle that there are certain Caucasian communities that also apply these, and there you'll see people in their community living to 100 to 120 years old. Blue Zone community, study it. It's a documentary on Netflix and one on YouTube. Check it out. All I'm giving y'all is natural principles to apply in your daily habits of eating. Which leads us to this. Do you not think that you also, have a human biofield, have meridian avenues that I like to call it, or the meridian system? You don't think you go through also something called bioluminescence as well? Yes. They now have an instrument that actually proves the human biofield, family. Literally proves the human biofield. It's called it's Blue Zone community. Just type in Blue Zone and it should pop right up. Watch this, family. Let me share something with y'all, right? So before we move on, before I show you this article, right? You have something called the meridian system, or what you call it, and this is actually this system was actually made up in Japan. I forgot the doctor's name, but he was able to show that there's certain currencies or there's certain pathways. Just like you got rivers called currents. You have also energetic currents in your body, and these 12 principal currents is flow through your stomach, your spleen, your intestines, your heart, your bladder, your kidneys, your glands, your prostate gland, your pituitary gland, your thymus gland, your pineal gland. These are all, your pancreas gland, which is a gland itself. These are all energetic pathways that help. So what's one of the things that happen when you start to block these pathways up? Energy is actually bound. And energy got to go somewhere. And this energy actually gets stuck in your tissue. This is actually how people become fat. If you actually notice, most people who are fat don't exercise because that energy is not going nowhere positive. It's not going nowhere productive. So anytime you start to block up the energy and clog up the energy and keep it stagnant, it starts to build within the tissues. So when we actually detoxify you, when we're actually cleansing you, what we're really doing at the nucleus is freeing up these pathways. We're freeing up these pathways. We're freeing up these biophotons, which we're going to get into. We are freeing up these meridian avenues. And that's really the root of all this, is that a lot of people who are dealing with mental illness and physical illness, their energy is blocked up. Most people dealing with anxiety and depression is dealing with an imbalanced pineal gland and an imbalanced thyroid gland. When you get to people dealing with schizophrenia, they dealing with an imbalanced pituitary gland. All these glands is dealing with energy, which is called hormones. So anytime you block these, or you have an imbalance, you're dealing with erectile dysfunction or diabetes in men. A lot of it is dealing with prostate. The prostate gland hormones is off. The energy levels is off. This is why when you find a prostate issue, you oftentimes find erectile dysfunction. What is erectile dysfunction? There's not enough energy flowing to the penis. There's not enough blood flowing to the penis. So you see what I mean? We're dealing with energy at the most rooted level. So let me read this article for y'all. Watch this. So y'all can see my source. So this dealing with images, this is where they take pictures and stuff of this, right? So it's called bioluminescence and biophotons in human. So oftentimes, right, if y'all ever seen, like, the further you go down into the ocean, right, and you start to actually go past the different levels, the floor levels of the ocean, you'll actually see the ocean becomes a lot more darker. But what you also actually see when it does become more darker, you actually see the biofields of a lot of fish. This is not an uncommon thing. You see a lot like your electrical eels, right? There are certain fish that carries certain biofields that we can actually see with the human eye, even on certain floor levels of the sea. Well, guess what? Humans have the same type of biofield. No, we can't see it with the naked eye, but there is certain glances that we see. Like, for example, have you ever seen somebody who just went on a fast? They may have changed their diet, they losing weight, and you see them, you like, oh girl, you starting to glow. Or man, you got this glow on you, brother. You looking good. Your skin looking plush. Do you think that's just by way of just their diet alone? A lot of it is. But it's also on the inside that they are really actually glowing. Right? You ever seen the movie I can't believe it. The Last Dragon. Y'all remember that song when Bruce Leroy actually started to glow? He's like, hey, you got that glow? I feel it, don't let go. Power of elevation. Y'all ever heard that song? If you actually listen to it, it's talking about an actual glow that your body is able to naturally produce. But guess what? Now, I'm not saying you're going to be around here like Bruce Leroy. I'm not saying that. But hey, who am I? You never know. The creator may have put that in us. We just haven't been able to tap into it. I would never limit the creator. But what I am saying is there is a glow that we do carry naturally, right? Most people that carry this glow, you see them positive, they're loving, they're selfless, right? They're carrying the fruit of the spirit. So let's read this. So it says, the sight of a firefly, its warm bioluminescent glow on a dark summer night seems magical. Fireflies, also known as lightning bugs, are not the only living creatures that are known to emit light from their bodies. In the depths of the vast oceans and the darkest caves, there exist living organisms that have adapted themselves to the dark, which I was talking about. These living organisms that radiate light from their bodies have adapted to their dark environment. These are bioluminescent creatures. Hold on real quick, family. So I thought that was pretty interesting, right? Because, and this is my mom. I'm not saying this is facts, right? But like it says in the scripture that in the last days, the love of many shall wax cold, and there should be utter darkness on the earth. And then he tells the people of Israel, he says that you are a light. You are a light of the world, a city set on the hill, right? Does a man put a candle under a bushel? Right? And I thought that was pretty interesting because when you look at the essence, it seems as when there is more darkness, those who carry the light shine more. Because remember, all things in the seen is a reflection of that which is unseen. So we're seeing that, and guess what? You will actually start to see it's the same thing with us. When the actual day starts to decrease in light, you will actually see the energy levels, the biometrics, the biophotons start to fire off even more within your body that actually causes a natural glow in you too. Let's keep reading. It says, so what is bioluminescence? Bioluminescence is the biological process through which light is produced. You see that? And emitted by a living organism, resulting from a chemical reaction. A chemical reaction occurring within the body of the organism. Bioluminescence is not a rare phenomenon in marine life. Nature has its own way of putting up a magnificent show of light where sunlight cannot penetrate. The depths of the ocean are home to a variety of bioluminescent species. I ain't gonna go through all that, right? But you see that there's certain bacteria, fungi and plants that illuminate too. So it says bioluminescent light is a cold source of light. So only a fractional amount of this light, never more than 20%, radiates heat. While some, I believe it or not, this is actually where they got the so-called calorie theory. It's because when you look at the calorie theory in its origin, it's nothing but a practice or an experiment of heating up energy. That's all it is. But that has nothing to do with your body taking calories. It has everything to do with them practicing or experimenting on heating up energy. Y'all can look that up. So it says, while some creatures emit bioluminescent light constantly, others choose to emit it or flash it only when needed. Bioluminescent light is usually bluish green in color because most marine organisms show sensitivity to blue and green light, and they cannot process colors such as yellow, violet, and red. Blue and green lights travel well together. The function of bioluminescent. Now watch this, y'all. The evolution of the Earth's living creatures is based that no natural physical development occurs without a reason. Similarly, the process of bioluminescence occurs to fulfill the need for certain living organisms to survive in their environmental conditions. So what they're about to go through is they use certain environmental conditions to either help attract or to help push away, to protect themselves. And so some of those elements are to attract a mate during mating season. Now, what's interesting about that is, do we not send off what you call pheromones? We as humans, do we not send off vibratory pheromones when we are attracted to somebody by way of our hair? Do we not do the same thing to it, even if we don't consciously know we're doing it? We actually send off something called pheromones. It's literally a vibratory energy that is sent out. It's a chemical that is sent out to attract or be attractive to somebody. Then you got a certain vibration that's there to detect prey. What do we call that? We call that intuition. Then we have something called to lure prey. It's also dealing with intuition or discernment. Then you got to defend oneself against a predator, right? There's certain type of moods that we put on when we don't want to talk to nobody. Mood is nothing but energy. Then you got something to say, talk about to communicate between similar species. We got something called what? Body language, which is nothing but energy signals. And to navigate, which is also going into discernment and is also going into intuition. So you see that we do the same exact things, right? So it says the process of bioluminescence requires the presence of two chemicals, a pigment called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase. Now, these are only found in animals. That's not necessarily for us. So it says when luciferin reacts with oxygen in the presence of the catalyst luciferase, a byproduct known as oxyluciferin is produced. This oxyluciferin is the luminescent light which is emitted by bioluminescent creatures. So this is talking about within animals. Now watch this. We're going to go down for humans, right? So it says, as vague as bioluminescence in humans may sound, recent scientific research has successfully proven that the human body emits very low intensity light, which is invisible to the naked eye. Now I'm gonna give y'all my theory. This is my theory. I'm not saying this is facts, but I believe the reason that we have low intense light that's not so seen with the eye is due to what happened in the beginning. This is my theory. If you actually read in the book of Genesis and you see Adam, they clearly could not actually see their bodies. It was only after they fell to a negative charge energy called sin, a low vibration energy called sin, that the light was taken away. You see that? And then they realized they were naked. So my theory is that I believe that they must have been illuminating. I believe they were illuminating so much so that they were able to walk around naked. And it was only when the light was taken away that they realized they had to cover up. You see that? So I believe part of the reason why we don't illuminate as much as we used to is due to the environmental factors of negativity, sin, and even down to the food that we're eating, even down to the fruits and vegetables, because those are synthetic and hybrids. Not hybrids, but GMO, genetically modified organisms. So it says, proving that the human body emits very low intensity light, which is visible to the naked eye. Japanese scientists, this is what I'm talking about. The Yasuke Kikuchi and Masaki Kobayashi from the Tohoku Institute of Technology are the minds behind the proof of bioluminescence in humans. It says with the aid of a highly sensitive imaging called charged couple device. It's a camera. Remember, I told you, just like this, right? Just like we were dealing with the Kirlian photography, this thermogenic camera, they have now created. They were able to create a photography camera that was able to see the luminescent light in humans. Watch this. It says these researchers were able to capture the very first image of human bioluminescence. It is no secret to science that living organisms, watch this, are capable of producing negligible amounts of light resulting from cellular chemical reactions, family. You see that? It is by way of cellular chemical reactions. Now imagine if you're losing hertz and energy in your cells by way of sickle cell anemia, by way of anemia. Huh? By way of dehydration. Huh? Then that would mean that the lower the frequency of the cell, the less likely you're able to illuminate light within the cell. Based upon the low frequency foods that you're eating. Because it is the low frequency foods that you're eating that yields dehydration, that yields inflammation, that yields disease and sickness, that yields hormonal imbalances. And remember, a false balance is an abomination. A false balance is not something that is beautiful to look upon. The only way one was able to have a high vibrational lifestyle is by way of eating high vibrational food. I'm only dealing with the natural. I'm only dealing with the natural element of being able to sustain and maintain this vehicle called a human body. If you're lacking energy because you're not eating energetic foods. If you're constantly in a low vibrational environment, you are literally, remember, you have water in your cells, and water likes to shape shift based upon its environment. So you're in a low vibrational environment, you're going to cause your cells to be what? Low vibrational. Let's keep going. It says, however, capturing this low intensity bioluminescent light from humans was considered as an impossible feature. Nevertheless, this recent achievement comes as a breakthrough in the field of biology. And this happened in, I think this actually happened in the 80s when this happened, 1980 something. It says, researchers used a very sensitive CCD camera to observe the upper bodies of the volunteers over a period of time. So this is why a lot of the times you can tell a lot about a person's health. Outside of their gut, you can tell a lot about a person's health by looking at their face. See that? It's called iridology readings. You can tell a lot about how a person's skin look to know if they're healthy or not. See, I always say well, if you're dealing with the ignorant, there's three people you can never lie to. That's yourself, that's your body, and that's God. But to a person like me who's able to see these things, you can't lie to somebody like me, yourself, your body, or God. Because it will show. It will reveal itself. See, we don't have to go far. We don't have to get no checkup. We can look at our body and know if we're healthy or not. You start to see skin breakages and your hair falling out. Your teeth becoming very sensitive. You're having gut issues. You can't sleep properly. These are all signs that there's a hormonal imbalance going on. These are all signs that the cellular respiration level is low. These are all signs that the vibratory biophotons is functioning at a low vibration. It's proven. It says the startling observations made during this process of this experiment include the human body emits light, which is invisible to the naked eye. This light is precisely 1,000 times weaker than the human eye can perceive. The human body emits light rhythmically, and directly. The light emitted by the human body is at its highest intensity level late in the afternoon. And this is why I always tell you, this is exactly why I always tell y'all, you should eat your heaviest meal between the hours of 3 and 5 o'clock p.m. Because your energetic levels are so high, you are able to actually metabolize your food at a very high level at that time. So it's always best to eat your heaviest meal of the day during those hours. So let's see. So it says, I ain't gonna read the rest of that, but it says, just as bioluminescence occurs due to chemical metabolic reactions and other known bioluminescent creatures, bioluminescence occurs in humans due to metabolic reactions, family. It is due to metabolic reactions. What's in charge of metabolic reaction, family? Your pancreas, your kidneys, your adrenal glands, your thyroid glands, your lymphatic system. We see that the light that is yielded from the cells is all based upon how you are metabolizing as a human vehicle. And the only way you're able to metabolize at a very high level is to eat foods that properly assimilates with the cellular structure so that it can still sustain and recharge itself at an optimum level of health. But if you're eating low vibrational food, that food is only going to cause death upon yourself, just like a parasite. A parasite, what does a parasite do? It literally leeches off a cell and it literally takes its energetic force. That's why a parasite acts like a vampire. It literally sucks the life out of cells. What do you think will happen when you're eating acidic form of food? What does acid do first and foremost? It burns. It's already that you're already dealing with the ribonucleic acid, but then you're dealing with hydrochloric acid. So imagine if you put acid on top of the natural acid that you're already building. You are nothing but yielding your members of your cells into a burning house. You're integrating your cells into a burning house. And what happens when you're in a burning house? You burn and you die. Your cells need oxygen. It needs space. It needs freedom. It needs coolants. And that only comes by way of you giving it the food that best assimilates with it, processing it properly. So it says, when cells of the human body respire, which is dealing with respiration, they produce highly reactive free radicals. We want to call these biophotons. These free radicals interact with free-floating proteins and lipids. This reaction can at times lead further interactions with fluorophores in the human body, which leads to emissions of light. So it's telling you how it happens. Since human bioluminescence occurs at such a low intensity, it is very unlikely that this feature will serve any evolutionary purpose. Probably upon further. So you to be able to really see that, you actually have to have the certain type of instrument. But the point is that you have that power within you if you so choose to eat right. So when we look at the biofield of the human body, or we want to call the biophotons or bioluminescent field of that body, well, this is what it says: human emanation, gas discharge, visualization, diagnostic, going to the Kirlian photography. Now look at the one on the left. It's a sick person. You see the difference in their energy. Their biofield is breaking off. It's not attached. It's not one. It's not flowing properly. It's not rhythmic. No different than when we looked at the water. Remember the water? The water, when it has low vibrational sounds, it starts to break up the cellular wall of that water. It is not able to properly form. So this person is obviously dealing with immunity issues due to healthy lifestyle, unhealthy lifestyle, and they're dealing with huge waste, right? Their energy is clogged up within their tissues. But let's go to the person all the way to the right. This is another sick person, right? We don't see their energy necessarily breaking, but we do see the red, right? Which can represent inflammation. We see the red picking up. So we see an uneven, this is what you call hormonal balance. They may not necessarily have blocked up energy, but they're having hormonal balances on this side. They're having estrogenic levels out of balance. They're having testosterone levels out of balance. They're having serotonin levels out of balance. They're having melatonin levels out of balance. These are usually your people who are dealing with lack of sleep, lack of energy, not able to produce enough semen, not able to lubricate the vagina properly. The menstrual levels is off. Not enough circulation going to the penis. They might not necessarily be a person who is big or fat, but their hormones is off. Right? Allergies, gut microbiota off. But then when we actually see the person in the middle, we see all the energetic fields are even. We see there's no breakages in the energetic forces. So we see no defects, and we see an actual healthy lifestyle and a balance of hormones and energy fields, family. So when it comes down to it, is that we see at the root that we're dealing with hertz, we're dealing with energy, we're dealing with vibration. We're dealing with light codes. And based upon the light code molecules of your body called constituent chains, called biophotons, called amino acid structures, called monosaccharides, we see that there is a distinct and peculiar type of food. There are certain estrogenic levels of food that we have to eat in order for us to even vibe at a high vibratory level. And the reality is tonight we have proved that vibratory food is your fruits, is your vegetables, and is your nuts. And not only your fruits, vegetables, and nuts, but these are raw fruits, vegetables, and nuts. So I would highly suggest, family, that at least 85% to 90% of your food should be raw foods. If you can just implement that while still keeping even whatever you're doing, you will see a change in your health. You will see your energy levels go up. You will see your so-called mood be better. You will see even your discernment and how you make decisions are a lot better. Because now you're able to think, and the energy, the meridian system is now able to flow properly. But you, as being the responsible one who's given charge of this vehicle, have been given charge of this family, call a community of molecular cells, 150 trillion cells. You've been given the responsibility and accountability to make sure that you are doing right by these cells. We see a simple principle in the Bible. Love the Most High with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. But how can you love your neighbor if you're not properly loving yourself? How can you correct your neighbor if you can't correct yourself? How can you tell your neighbor to make better decisions when you can't make better decisions yourself? How can you truly emit love, the love frequency to anybody else when you're not emitting it to yourself? And love is a selfless act. And the greatest act you can do is to give your selfish ways up. It's to give your bad habits up so that you can live. You deserve to live. You deserve to have a healthy life. It's okay if you got to push the cake away, the cookies away sometimes. If you got children, you plan on having children, your children will benefit off you making that disciplinary decision. But you got to think about something bigger than yourself to make those type of decisions. So with that being said, if y'all understood, and understood the message tonight, the lecture tonight, drop some sevens in the chat. Y'all understood, overstood, and understood the message tonight, the lecture tonight, drop some sevens in the chat. I done lost my voice, y'all. All right, family. Well, if y'all got any questions, if there any other type of topics y'all want to talk about, hit me up in the email that's going across the screen and send me an email. We'll get into it. But even for anybody looking for any herbal compound products, wildcrafted products, body and skin products, make sure y'all check our website out. We do bulk sale and wholesale as well on our herbs. And you can get all your herbal remedies, your healing remedies at the website at www.theauthenticexperience.org. That is the website going across. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Continue to heal, continue to build, continue to unlearn and relearn. Understand that you've been lied to, and you in a matrix that is programming you to assimilate to death rather than assimilate to life, family. And it's time for us to unplug. It's time for us to unplug and replug back into the real source, which is the creator. Once we plug back into that source, we understand the resources that he gave us, which is the earth. Huh? He gave us the earth and the fullness thereof. And everything that's yielded from the earth is ours, from our clothes, from our body and skin products. See, even your clothes carry an energy. It carries a hertz. The highest frequency fabric is linen. Then it's cotton. These literally carry healing mechanism frequencies. Look it up. This is why hospitals use linen, because it comes from flax plant. Like the flax seed comes from flax plant. And it's shown to actually help the skin to heal and repair itself. We're dealing with energy, family. What type of energy do you want to be around? All energy ain't good energy. Huh? All frequency ain't match frequency. And when we understand that, you then have to ask the question, what type of energy you want to be around and what type of energy you going to accept. Because if it's not progressive, positive, love, fruit of the spirit type of energy, I don't want it. I don't need it. I want to be surrounded by love, because love is actually the highest form of nutrients and frequency you can actually have. So I want the highest form of health. I want the highest form of nutrition. I want the highest frequency, which is the love frequency, family. If I ain't getting that, I don't want it. If I ain't getting that, I don't want it. So I love y'all. I emit a love energy on you all. I emit healing energy on you all. I pray that we can start understanding. Because once we get this understanding, then we can realize, oh, I need to grow my own food. I need to make my own clothes. I need to make my own toothpaste. I need to make my own soap. I need to make my skin cream, lotions. I need to make my own, well, we should be wearing drawers anyway. because draws actually can lower your frequency as well and your reproductive organs, by the way. If y'all missed that lesson, go check that out too. So with that being said, I love y'all, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.